Let's talk about the midfield now, boys. Heath, I'm going to come to you first. Brendan Aronson running the number 10 spot, Yunus Musah running the number 8 spot, and Tyler Adams running the number 6 spot. You'd already talked about earlier, you liked the balance of that particular midfield three, maybe a little bit different than what we've seen with Weston McKennie. I tweeted after the game that what I like now is when we see this emergence of some players, and even when Weston McKennie came on, I thought Aronson did so well, or at least the midfield looked like they were fluid and making plays and really understanding what they wanted to do and how they were going to do it, that maybe that's put McKennie under some pressure that, boy, you better play well. Otherwise, it could be really tough for you to find minutes. So I'm kind of curious, looking very, very briefly ahead to Uruguay, I'd like to see McKennie, Aronson, and Adams in that particular game, just so we can see what that looks like. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Did you like the starting lineup, Heath Pearce, from Mr. Greg Berhalter?
Yeah, I disagree with wanting to see that three, because I continue to think that Yunus Musah needs to be on the field. He's the one. I still think that he's just.
Has he had a bad performance for the U.S.? I don't know if he has.
Yeah, he has had a bad performance. I'd
Look
say.
At Charlie coming in with the truth.
Just
over
like,
here.
but I'd say average is still very high. His average.
Yeah, especially for being as young as he is.
He still has something that we saw with De La Torre a little bit when he came on, with this ability to just advance the ball. And I think the U.S. really struggles to advance the ball. And I still think we're a little bit disconnected in what to do when we get to that point, because while I like the three today and the way that they were able to play through moments, all wanting the ball in tight spots and play in and out the other side, we still can't get our striker involved in the first half. We still don't get Jesus Ferreira. And now in transition, we got him in a few good spots, winning the ball higher up the field, as Charlie mentioned before. But I still think we struggle to find that connectivity with our striker, which makes that striker question of what do we need from that striker? If not, we saw with Pulisic over the top. I think Timo Weah, we've seen that verticality. There still could be an argument there. I think the Ferreira thing is still up for debate, as Charlie mentioned before. But overall, with the three in the midfield, I just like the way in which they played, more so in the press, making the game predictable, of playing to our strengths of the players that we have versus, trying to play through teams and build up, because I agree. I don't think Brendan Aronson was great in being in those little half spaces in the way that Pulisic is, where he's on the half turn and then his first touch is forward and we break the lines of pressure on the dribble. But I just like the energy of that group. I thought they played really well together. I think they were predictable in their pressing, and I think we won the ball in good spots, primarily because that initiation or that trigger from that front three now allowed those players, those three midfielders, to kind of all advance one player forward and win the ball. And Brendan Aronson's fantastic at poking the ball away. Tyler Adams is fantastic at poking the ball away. And that allowed us to get into some spots and almost make Morocco get a little bit shook on our ability to kind of win some of those sort of 50-50 balls that could become dangerous. And they stopped sort of doing that, even though I did like, I can't remember his name from Morocco, their number 6, Amrabat, who is fantastic on the ball.
Okay, so Charlie, I'm going to come to you, and then I'll go back to Heath for the subs here. Did you like? I know we've already talked about Brendan Aronson and him speeding up the game and slowing it down. We don't necessarily have to dive into that, but did you like the combination of these three particular players? Because I think Tyler Adams actually, I thought did very, very well looking for the ball and helping us play out of maybe some tight spots, especially I remember it in the first half where he was going to seek it out and trying to play forward from that. One of the things I was looking at today was our transition game, that when we do try to build out, or if we win it quickly, how quickly can we get it to the next person? They can play forward and try to break that line. And I thought Tyler Adams did that a few times in the first half. And I was like, yes, I'm like a proud dad over here. But Musah, I thought he found himself in good spots. As you mentioned before, he does an amazing job of running and breaking the lines with the ball. It's always that, what is he going to do next once he gets into that next phase,
yes.
when that next line steps up to him? I think that is still
same with Pulisic, by the way.
Yes, yes. And then obviously with Aronson, my big question for them, and I think you weren't on the show yet, was he going to run into the same spaces that Pulisic was? Because Pulisic likes to come inside to find the ball. But I thought they did a pretty good job of that, all things considered, Charlie.
I would say, it was easy for Greg Berhalter because McKennie couldn't start. So that allowed you to see Aronson in that position. But McKinney's going to start. So at the end of the day, you have one spot and maybe 4 players could play there. So Musah's got to play. right? Especially if he's going to continue to develop once he breaks the lines, closing down that space, drawing, make sure you continue to keep going to draw a defender into to the ball, and then you can find the next guy.
Right.
And Christian making that run in behind where Zimmerman could play him that long ball. That's the type of run you want to see from Christian, getting him behind. We don't see that from him often.
Right.
So that movement shows me, okay, there's progress already. He's not coming to check for the ball all the time like Jesus Ferreira was doing. So now if you throw in Haji Wright, which changes the dynamic of the front three, maybe that's what you needed, because it wasn't that Haji Wright blew your socks off with his performance tonight, but it was so promising. That's why I'm hyped about it, because it was promising. His runs, the way he got on the ball, the way he did check and combined, he could come, play the ball, and then immediately was running to lead the line, right? To be the last guy. So I like the fact that he showed some really good movements. It wasn't that he was effective in the final third, like that one ball that was played in 1v1. He kind of missed the touch, but kept it alive, and then they're able to get the goal. So there are still facets he needs to improve, but for his first real performance, I like what I saw. Like, okay. I'm encouraged.
All right. So what I was going to add is what I'm hearing from you about Brendan Aronson in particular is McKennie's a starter. Musa has to play from both of you, and Tyler Adams obviously is a lock, which means it's kind of looking like Brendan Aronson, hey, buddy, you've been playing really well. We really like everything that you're doing, but you're probably going to be a super sub for us. That's going to be a harsh talk, I think, that Greg's going to have.
It depends on the way you want to play. Depends on
I guess it depends on the opponent.
If you think that you can't play through opponents and you can't get McKennie, the best out of McKennie in the way that we play, because I don't think he's got the X factor. He can score the big goals. He can do those things. But I still don't think we get the most out of Weston McKennie in the way that this national team plays. I think the way that we played today, you get the most out of Brendan Aronson on the field than a Weston McKennie. When Weston came on, he was clean, he was simple, he was connecting the game, and I love that about his game. Different style of play or different. Not that he doesn't have the engine or the pace, but I just saw something different in that midfield three. Again, different opponent, very different than qualifying that we've seen before. But yeah, just the thought.
Okay, so about the subs, we got Malik Tillman who came on and he was trying stuff. I like that he already had that confidence when he came on the field. Luca De La Torre, I remember in particular, did some really great run between the lines to set up. He's got nice, clean passes. The weight of his passes are probably my favorite thing about Luca De La Torre. It's always, there's thought behind it. You know, everything is, he's thinking the game in a way that maybe some of our other players are in a big rush. He seems to be the one that likes to slow it down, Charlie, and knows when to pick those spots to make that happen. And then we have Weston McKennie who came on, and I thought he looked pretty vibrant, all things considered. He came on. I remember him having a good one touch into the middle and looking to play and move. I love that about Weston McKennie. It's not only his clutch factor, because he's obviously a tremendous goal scorer when we need him to be. He always seems to step up in the big moments. But the fact that he always likes to play and move, he doesn't like to slow the game down. And maybe that's just the type of team that we have, Charlie, with regard to our subs. I mean, how are you feeling about, I know you talked about Tillman a little bit, I think, but any of those other guys' performances stand out for you, or are you just?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big fan of Luca De La Torre's game too, but at the end of the day, he's in a bad position because of the players in front of him.
Yeah.
So as in terms of a super sub, he could also be one of those guys that's brought in if we have a lead, you know, got to keep possession. We're up a man. That's the type of sub you bring on, right? So I love the fact that we have so many options and depth pieces for tactical.
Did you just
changes.
say if we're up a man?
Yeah, if there's a red card.
Are we bringing a guy to the World Cup in case there's a red card?
No.
Why not?
Can you play 12 players? Can you play 13 players? No. So if Luca De La Torre is not going to play, the only way he's going to come on the pitch is
I agree. He is a very specialty type of player.
He's not going to play over.
He is a game scenario type of player. The scenario has to be right for Luca De La Torre to have an impact. I fully agree. I'm just giving you a hard time.
So you guys both played with Paco Torres, right?
Yeah,
and I don't know if they're the same exact player, but Paco also.
I don't.
But they brought that same kind of. He liked to keep the ball. He liked to play. He liked to, I mean, they're not like for like, but I remember Paco Torres feeling like he was very similar, that we're going to use him for a specific opponent or for specific situations. And as Chudy says Luka will be on the plane to Qatar, but unfortunately he's not dynamic enough to start every game. He'll start at least one game in Qatar.
Are you talking about Gringo Torres? We're talking about.
I'm talking about Gringo Torres. Yeah.
Different player, but like,
but different player. But I'm just saying, like, he felt very specialized.
You want to bring him in for? Would you say more like Benny Fullhaber, Luka Del Torre?
That's not a bad shout. Benny's a great passer of the ball, by the way. Still feel like he was underrated in passing.
Benny was, but I thought Benny was also had a few more elements that I thought of Yunus Musa in him at this point in terms of being able to kind of at least break lines of pressure on the dribble, or like
Yunus power though.
He didn't have his power, but he at least had this ability to get out of tight spots. And I know that De La Torre does as well, but maybe there is some more similarities than I thought with the two of them.
That's not a bad shout.
Actually. But Benny wasn't always side to side though. Benny could advance the ball as well and get into the attack.
All right, so let's talk about the front line. Because the front three, that is. We started with Christian Pulisic, Jesus Ferreira, and Timo Weah. Timo Weah scored. Pulisic had an assist, could have scored, but gave up his penalty to Haji Wright. What a nice guy. And then Ferreira, I thought, was pretty quiet in the first half until that chance there right before halftime where he could have made it 3-0. Maybe could have done a little bit more with it. Charlie talked about it a little bit as that big opportunity that he missed. Heath also described very similar to PFOC in Mexico City against Mexico, where hey man, you got to take these chances if you want to hold on to this position,
because we bigger chance.
So if you don't capitalize on these opportunities, somebody else is going to come in and capitalize on it. So Heath, I'll come to you first on this front line. I was pretty happy with all three of those guys. Ferreira, obviously, I wish that he would have done a little bit more, but when Haji Wright came in, I can't say enough about his hold-up play and how valuable I think that is to our team, especially in transition.
It's so funny how much we wanted to get rid of just a traditional target striker until we stopped having a traditional target striker, right? We wanted something a little more dynamic, a little more modern, a little less of a post-up player. But when you watch players like Karim Benzema, now he's the full package. He's a world-class player. But his hold-up play, he checks in, gets the ball, lays it off, goes back up top. Checks in, gets the ball, lays it off, goes up top. Now, what he does in the box, his goal scoring is world-class and completely different than anything we'll probably ever have. But his hold-up play is what I'm most impressed by Karim Benzema as a player. When I see a striker that can just occupy space, hold the ball, lay it off, draw fouls, do some of that dirty work, bring other players into it. He had a little flick. He had a spin out, that type of stuff. I just really appreciate that in a striker. Ferreira still feels like another type of striker that we're having trouble finding or getting involved for long periods of the game. Christian Pulisic, I think, is still trying to find himself. Now, unbelievable touch in the attack. The things he did really well. But there's still a wastefulness to him driving into no space, trying to do more than he needs to do with the quality that this team has now. And I think that's something to him still trying to find himself. By the way, Christian Pulisic calling out the U.S. soccer fans after the game tonight. I don't know if you guys have seen any of that, but saying, I'm not super happy with the amount of fans here, thanks to the ones who did come. So definitely not satisfied with the U.S. fan base. So that's a little knock on his performance right now.
Is this where the fans go back and say, well, maybe you shouldn't have ticket prices be astronomical? And maybe
it's that new CBA where you get that sellout bonus, baby. We need to sell out these stadiums. But no, he did call out the fans, which is something for we can discuss another time, because we got a lot of these shows coming up over the next 6 years. But and then on the right side again, Timo Weah. There's times that Christian Pulisic could have laid one off to Yunus Musa on the slip through, got a corner out of it. Okay, I'm not mad about that. Again, it's not the perfect decision, but he made a good decision to have a shot. Timo Weah, sometimes too, I look at it and I go, man, there's a better option out there. But I just like his directness. And if we don't have people who are willing to take a shot, who are willing to take a chance, top of the box, 1-2 touch, set up and hit, then we're never going to get near the goal. And I just like, of all the players on the field, Timo Weah's game is probably the most predictable because it's kind of got some old school elements to it, right? Get down to the touchline, cross it in, get the ball, go to the goal, attack, shoot. And some of our other players seem like they beat the first man and then they go, oh man, what do I do now? Do I pass? Do I shoot? And there's that confusion. Whereas his game, I think, makes the rest of the players on the field know what's going to happen next. And I'm enjoying the form that he's in and his evolution within the national team.
Okay, so Charlie, as I segue from Heath's insight, which I value, to you, I want to ask you, given the performance of Jesus Ferreira and Haji Wright and Timo Weah playing out wide right, do you want to still see Timo Weah at the number 9 spot? Because
yes,
there's a part of me that wants to see Haji Wright start against Uruguay when maybe he's not going up against tired Moroccan defenders.
They did
We're
look
down
tired, by the way.
2-0. And I want to see what he looks like against, very healthy, robust. Diego Godin's maybe like 75 years old, but still he'll be fresh at the start of a
But
game.
he's so smart.
I've never heard
Yeah, of
anybody
course.
get described as healthy and robust. But
The robust
It's been a long
part.
day, dude.
That's
I've been watching a lot of soccer.
healthy
Yeah,
and
that
robust.
defender is robust.
Yeah.
I think Haji Wright has got to start against Uruguay, but I'd love to see Timothy Weah too, because we're also talking about getting all the best players on the pitch. And in a likely scenario where Timothy Weah is balling, Musa's balling, Aronson's balling, McKinney and Adams, you have to figure a way to get them all on the pitch. And if that means moving Timothy Weah to the 9, then that's what you do. Unless Haji Wright takes another step and he just takes off from here, from this point on. So this next game, I think, is massive for him because he has been promising. Jesus Ferreira, I think, there's players that needed to help their stock. I think he hurt his stock tonight. And it was because he's in the form of his life for club. That doesn't necessarily mean it translates to the national team, and it doesn't necessarily mean that
if he finished his chance, would you feel differently?
Yes, I would.
Finished?
Yes, but ultimately, it goes back to the PFOL conversation. He's one-dimensional.
Yeah.
And if you're not going to score, which is really the only thing you have shown that you can do, because his hold-up play hasn't been great, doesn't make great runs, can't dribble for nothing. So,
Jeez Louise, Charlie.
If you can't score,
what an internet bully.
if you can't score, right, then
can't dribble for nothing.
We can't.
No first touch, can't finish, can't shoot, can't dribble. In the form of his life.
That's gotta be a t-shirt. In the form of his life, can't dribble for nothing.
But I think of what else can you give me?
Yeah.
If you're not scoring.
Well, he looks healthy and robust. I don't know if that matters.
But yeah. Wasn't that what
I don't
you
know
like
if he's
about
robust,
Pepe, though?
though.
Pepe gives you things even when he's not scoring, but you want him to score, right? Isn't that what makes Pepe, at least in my opinion, a little bit more dynamic? Is he brings other players in, he gets involved, he seems to have that creativity of players around him. And Jesus Ferreira, I feel like, yeah,
but still, I think the question still remains: is he good enough?
Yeah.
To play for the U.S. in a World Cup match against that quality, and the fact that he's in the form of his life and people are still unsure, I think that speaks volumes to me. So, and then tonight wasn't able to capitalize on that one chance. Neither was Haji, but I think Haji was still in it. He was still making good runs. He was still active and engaged. And Jesus was quiet. He was almost like hiding for large instances of the game. And as a striker, you can maybe do that as a defender, as a defensive midfielder, and you're quiet. Okay, fine. But as a striker, you got to be involved. You got to be constantly making runs. You got to be constantly running the channels, whether you get it or you don't. Maybe you're opening space, checking the movement and being involved. And he did find the ball. I like that from Haji.
Yeah, Charlie does not like his Ferreira.
I know that. I was talking about.
I'm
I was
just
talking
giving you a hard
about
time.
P-Folk though. When it came to dribbling.
Got it. Oh, I thought you were talking about Jesus Ferreira the whole time.
No, I was talking about P-Folk.
Oh, got it.
Wow.
Jeez, I'm like, man, he just played. He's just doing the best he can.
talking
Well, it's
about
all right. We're gonna clip it up anyway before you go and correct us, and we're gonna post it. So
Jesus has been balling. I'm not gonna say he can't dribble for nothing. I'm talking about P-Folk.
Got it. That makes a lot more sense. I thought you were talking about Ferreira. I'm like,
God, thank you.
Wow, I'm glad we had that moment to clarify your
Yeah.
thoughts. All right,